Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're talking about episode 48, The Oath in the Tunnel.
Yes, after investigating the twisted roots of the Bradley family tree, Mustang gathers his most loyal troops. Meanwhile, Ed and his allies continue fighting Selim, who shocks everyone by turning on his own kind.
Spoilers. Anyway.
It always is a spoiler.
Yeah. But this was an interesting episode because, it shuffled things around from the manga chapter a little bit, but it only covered one chapter and was pretty faithful to everything that happened within it. And that was chapter 87, An Oath Made in the Underground. So
yes.
Kind of the same title, too.
Yeah, and I think we were both lucky because, I only had this volume.
Me too.
I don't have the next volume from the library yet. So it was perfect.
Yes, volume 21. I love when everything is, pretty close. So I don't have to get like 2.5 volumes just to skip over and go back and, search for each and every part.
Yeah, that happened a lot at the beginning.
Yeah.
Not so much now. Okay. This episode starts out as the last one ended, the fight in the woods, with Gluttony and Pride. Lanfan is like totally destroying Gluttony. She's moving around so fast and slicing him up. And then we see that Ling is helping. And they're just like totally destroying him.
Yeah, and both of us were impressed because we know that they can sense homunculi, but they were dodging past those trees in the forest, which I don't think they can sense. Do they have echolocation or something?
I don't know. Later, Fu explains they were taught to fight in the dark. So I think that's how they explain it.
Sure, whatever.
And then during this fight, we get some funny side commentary from Greed. He's very impressed with Lanfan. And he's like, "That's some woman you got. Where have you been hiding her?"
And I love how Ling doesn't deny, he doesn't try to go, oh, we're not, together. She's my bodyguard. He just goes, I'm full of surprises.
Yep.
Attaway,
also,
Ling.
that just made me think, I guess it makes sense, but Greed can't read Ling's thoughts, so he doesn't know everything about him.
That's
which
true.
Is interesting because he's living inside his body.
But yeah,
anyway.
It's not confirmed or anything that Ling and Lanfan could be a couple, but I think I don't like to assume really from shows. I don't like to take things out of context, but just the way he reacts around Lanfan, he probably wouldn't be opposed to the idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I can see it either way. Because on the one hand, they're just really good friends and he really cares for her. But yeah, on the other,
you can still care for somebody of the opposite gender without it being romantic. Just putting that out there. But I wouldn't be mad if they did end up in a relationship either.
Yes, fine either way.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like it could be kind of a similar situation to Hawkeye and Mustang, where it's but she's she's serving me, so that's kind of weird. But anyway, then we see Fu and Ed and Darius, the gorilla, are just chilling, waiting for the fight to be over, and then Fu appears and he scares Ed. But then he this is when he explains they can fight because they can they were taught to sense the dragon's pulse. This is also how they were able to find them because they could sense the homunculi in the woods, and they mentioned that they can sense Greed and Pride and Gluttony, but then they can also sense Hohenheim in the village, and he has a huge his aura, you could say. He seems more powerful than the homunculi, or bigger presence. And Ed realizes that Lanfan is the one fighting out there, but it's only been 6 months since she's gotten her automail. He's like, how did she do that? That can't be good for her. And then we do see that, like, while she is being awesome and fighting, like, she is struggling a little bit.
Yeah. And I like how Ed isn't, like, questioning her abilities, and he's not jealous that she recovered faster than he did when he got his automail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just out of a place of concern for her, like, oh, gee, she hasn't had much time to recover. I better go help her, because that's gonna hurt, because he knows from experience. So there's no, like, it's not Ed being like, oh, that girl can't handle herself. He's like, oh, I better give her backup. She's gonna be feeling that in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But she has other tricks up her sleeve. She throws a bomb at Gluttony. Or is it in his mouth? I can't remember.
No, just
at the
ground,
at him.
like at his feet.
After that happens, which scares Ed. Ed just spends a lot of time being shocked in this episode. We see a light bulb appear above Ed's head. Just kidding, not actually. But as the lights in the village start to come on, another light.
Very good visual cue there.
Yes. And he asks Fu to help Heinkel with him, who's the lion that is fighting Pride, and now Pride's when the lights start to come back on, he's gonna be able to use his shadows again. And then we see Pride and Heinkel fighting, and Pride is just, like, standing there while Heinkel, like, absolutely destroys him. Although, honestly, like, he is... It's interesting because he is fighting him, but unlike Gluttony, like, you never see, like, any blood or him getting, like, his limbs cut off. I think maybe
he just
part
gets
of that is
scratches.
maybe either his body is, like, super durable, or it's like he does look like a child, so they don't want to, like,
that
actually
that could totally be it.
that.
Like, no showing blood on a child. That is a fair point. Another thing you noticed later in the episode, when you said, like, a rip appeared in Pride's shirt, you could see the eyes of the shadows peering out through it.
Yeah.
So he could be just made up of shadows, so there wouldn't be any blood.
Yeah, that too. And also, like, when I was watching this, I was like, why isn't he fighting back? But, like, he is a child's body. Like, he can't, like, his punches would be so puny. It's kind of pointless for him to try to fight back. Yeah. He's better off, like, conserving his energy. But then we leave the fight there and we go to Madame Christmas's place. Roy is there, and Madame Christmas is sharing the information she's learned about Salim. She has a bunch of photos, like, going all, like, 50 years back, with Salim as a child in them. So just confirming, yes, he's super old and he's definitely not human. And then also she visited the Fuhrer's hometown and discovered that, yes, there are, like, records that he, like, lived and grew up there. Like, his family doesn't exist. So very suspicious, which we already know why. But then we go back to the fight, and some of the people from the village have arrived in the woods, and they have a lamp, and they come upon a very suspicious scene where a lion is beating a child.
I felt terrible when this happened. I'm like, oh, of course you came at the worst possible moment. This is horrible.
Yeah, or, like, upon the worst possible scene. Like, why couldn't they find, like, Gluttony? And yeah.
Like, who to know which one is the bad guy.
Yeah. But then they brought a lamp, so Pride gets his shadows back, and he starts fighting back, and it seems like Heinkel's in trouble, but then Ed comes in to protect him.
Wow, that was so cool. He just, like, deflects the shadow off his automail arm. That was so brave. He's like, I made it in time. So, well, this means Ed is in the fray and he can fight Pride because he can see now because there's light, which is, it's a good thing and a bad thing. But he sees Salim and he's like, you sure had me fooled there, because if you'll remember, Ed and Al had met Salim back when they thought he was a regular kid when they visited the Bradley family in Central. And in the manga, Salim actually answers him and he says, "Oh, Mr. Half-Pint Alchemist, you'll always be my role model." And it sounds kind of like a jibe or a taunt, but I wonder if there's some partial truth to that. Like, in some weird way, does Pride sort of admire Ed for some reason or another?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know. But then we go back to Madame Christmas's again, and we see that there are men outside watching Mustang, and this other guy comes up and tells him that Madame Christmas, her name is actually Chris Mustang, and it is his foster mother.
Woohoo.
And so they rush in, and the building blows up.
Yeah. They don't really show too much of it besides the explosion in the anime, but in the manga, those guys are totally dead. The manga panel makes that very clear. They're toast. Yep.
And we see that Madame Christmas and Roy have escaped into the sewers. And they part ways. Madame Christmas encourages him to focus up and apparently project the country, but actually protect the country.
Typo in the notes.
Yes.
And then the next part is the oath made in the tunnel, because Roy meets up with Greta,
okay,
and Fury.
That makes sense. I was confused by the title of this episode. So he meets up with those three and Hayate.
Yeah. And awesome. It's so adorable. In the manga, Roy suggests giving Black Hayate a rank because the dog is pulling his weight as a member of the group.
Yeah, no, it was so funny. He's like, "How about second lieutenant?" And then Fury's like, "That's higher than me."
Poor guy.
And then Mustang tells them that the Fuhrer's train blew up and he's missing, and they are kind of concerned. They're like, that was not part of the plan, and so they don't really know what's going on, but they kind of have no choice now. They need to move forward, and Mustang they're gonna keep fighting, and he's gonna become the Fuhrer and fix the country. And his only order to his men is don't die.
Yep,
so
that's
very
the
inspiring.
Made in the tunnel. That's more inspiring than the give up your dreams and die from Captain
Give
Levi.
up your dreams and die. Yes.
The speech before that was pretty inspiring, though.
Yes.
Kind of like this do or die moment, but don't die. Just do.
Yep. And then we go to the end of the fight. Pride is trying to cut Ed, but he can't, and it's because Ed's automail, he kept his northern automail, which has carbon fiber in it, so he turned his hand and part of his wrist into carbon, so it's Greed's
ultimate shield.
Yes, his ultimate shield, so he can't cut him. And then Fu shows up and he throws a flash bomb which disintegrates Pride's shadows, which releases Al, who Pride was trying to make him fight his body fight Ed. And then Darius pulls him, saves Al. And then Gluttony saw the flash bomb and he also arrives, and then they throw Ed throws another flash bomb, and we see Gluttony and Pride have been pretty beaten up, and Pride's like, they might actually beat us here. And then he gets a evil glint in his eye and does the disgusting thing where he licks his lips.
That's one of Meg's anime pet peeves, when characters lick their lips. My pet peeve is when they crack their knuckles or clench their hands, and you hear the clenching sound of their hands sounds like when you wring leather. And I'm clenching my hands right now and you can't even hear anything.
Interesting. I have never even noticed that.
Oh,
honestly.
You're gonna notice it now.
Oh no, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then, so Pride surrounds Gluttony, and he eats him. And everyone is horrified, and it's kind of sad, but not actually, because I hate Gluttony. He's so creepy. But his last words were like, "Help me, lust."
I didn't find him creepy in that moment in time because he was so pitiful, but there was something about him, like his I don't know, like his tone of voice and how pudgy he is, that kind of reminded me of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh,
and that made me like really sad.
Oh no. See, I've already shared, like, he's like reminds me of like a clown.
Yeah.
So
I totally see that too, and I'm petrified of clowns, so.
Yeah. And now Pride has Gluttony's abilities and is more powerful, and he can smell Hohenheim. And then the episode ends, but there is an end credit scene. All the military leaders and father are at headquarters, and they are discussing that Mustang has like started his coup, and like what is he gonna do next, and what should we do? And Olivier speaks up, and he's like, I think he's gonna capture the Führer's wife, and father's like, well, that's pointless.
Is it?
Yeah, is it though? And then we see that Mustang is indeed taking the Führer's wife hostage, but in a very like, I mean, he does, they do take down the bodyguards, but he like extends his hand to her and like, will you come with me? Yes. And
do you
he's very
trust
kind
me?
about it. Yeah. No. Where are your nipples?
Oh, I don't know if I can leave that in. They don't get it.
You've seen that, right?
I've seen that. You've shown me that meme. Okay, I'll leave it in, but I'll give the context. There's a meme about Aladdin, and there's that scene where he offers his hand to Jasmine on the magic carpet and says, do you trust me? And the meme is, no, I don't trust you. Where are your nipples? Because the animators just drew him bare-chested without any nipples. We've seen Roy shirtless. He has nipples.
Thank you for the clarification. Yeah,
well,
so he can be trusted. So what we are learning here is that if you have nipples, you can be trusted.
Oh man, it was a super random episode of Gravity Falls, but one of the characters was asking like deep existential questions, and then his last question was, why do dudes have nipples?
Why do they though?
Scientific analysis time. Okay. We're done. We're done.
That was the end of that episode.
Not even related.
All right.
Sorry,
What's
dear
next?
listeners.
Keep all that in, please.
I will. Oh, sorry. Okay. So next we had theories for things never explained in the show. And one theory that I had was, so we find out Roy is adopted, or part of a foster family. And I did notice that he has a different look than other Emestrians. Like, sure, there are other Emestrians with black hair, but he has like almond-shaped eyes and kind of a different look about him. So I'm wondering if he could be a long-lost Prince of Xing. Because as we know, the king has lots of children, Ling and Mei being two of them, and he could be from one of those other what do they call them, clans? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
one of those other clans. And it would make sense that somebody might have smuggled him out of the country to Amestris for his protection, because both Ling and Mei have admitted to attempts being made on their lives because they are royals. So, there is nothing to confirm that. No one has brought it up before, but I thought that could be a possibility.
Yeah, definitely his look. He could be from Xing. I don't know about a long lost prince, but definitely
go for broke on that theory.
Yeah. But... yeah, you know what? If you're gonna go for it, you gotta really commit.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just sometimes in TV shows and movies, when they make a point of saying that a character is adopted, sometimes there's a reason for it. Like, they have more backstory to share, and we never really get to see Roy's backstory at all.
Already, like, we know how important, like, the way, like, the author pays attention to, like, how she draws the characters, and, like, you know, the way that they look, because, like, Ishvalans, they look a certain way, and they have their red eyes, and Ed and Al, they have their golden eyes, and so it is important, and it could mean something, but it's interesting, that it's never mentioned. All we know is that he's adopted. And
all we get of his backstory is his early days in the military. We never get, like, baby Roy, like, child Roy.
Oh, I would have died.
He would have been really cute. Maybe I'll have to draw him sometime.
Yeah, you should.
Anyway, moving on. So, tracking homunculi deaths. Gluttony died probably like half a dozen or more times by Longfawn before Pride ended him for good. And Pride died at least one time for sure on screen, but Heinkel probably killed him more than that because we see that he's like exhausted by the time we catch up with them, so I'm assuming he's been slashing for quite a while.
Yes. Yeah, something that I noticed in the episode was like all his panting, like there was a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, and then animation expertise. So it was really interesting. They started animating on ones, which basically means like 24 frames per second, so making everything really smooth and precise during the scene where Pride eats Gluttony. And everything, like the mouth movements, the eye movements, they're all like really clean and intricate. And then something we noticed after Pride ate Gluttony was his eyes. They used to be black, but now they have purple inside them. And I think that came from eating Gluttony.
Yes. Interesting.
Yeah. And then, so since we reached the end of a volume, we get to see the fun little side comics that Arakawa includes, and there are so many of them, you'll have to check it out for yourself. But I wanted to share my favorite one. It's called Mugger, and somebody in a mask comes up to Hohenheim and tells him to give me all your valuable metals. And Hohenheim's just like, metal stuff, and he grabs Ed and Al, because armor and automail. And the next panel is Al with like a baseball bat with nails in it saying, "Come on, jump." And Ed says, "Hey, you do have money. Hurry up and give it to the mugger." As Hohenheim's jumping, you can hear change jingling in his pocket.
I like that one too. There's a lot of good ones. So I will share some of them. And also at the end of this one, the person going up to heaven is Gluttony.
Yep. Sayonara.
Yeah, you will not be missed.
Unfortunately, his powers live on.
Yeah. All right. So, what was your favorite line?
Mine came from Greed, talking about Longfawn. "That's some woman you've got. I didn't know you were such a stud. Where have you been hiding her all this time?" She's like, he called Ling a stud.
Oh, Greed. Well, he kind of has to think that because he's like in his body. He's like...
Yeah, true.
Anyway.
What was your favorite line?
Mine came from Ed when he like saves Heinkel from Pride. He says, "Just in the nick of time, Pops."
That's so cute.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, I don't know. Yeah, it was cute and unexpected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ed wouldn't leave anybody high and dry.
No, but like just, I don't know, the way he said it, like,
yeah,
it's like kind of interesting.
It just came out of his mouth. He said something different in the manga. I think he says, "I made it in time, old man," or something like that.
Yeah, that fits more with Ed. Yeah. He's always like calling.
Oh everybody... no, that was a close call, old man.
Okay.
Yeah, but this one seems so like it was special. Like it just came naturally from him, and I feel like it's even more endearing because just the episode before that, Heinkel and Darius were talking to him about his own father, about Hohenheim, and they're like, hey, maybe you should, cut him some slack. And Ed calling Heinkel Pops kind of is like, you have father figures in your life and you didn't even realize it until this dramatic moment.
All right. And then what did we learn this episode?
We got 2 life lessons. The first is everybody's strengths are needed. And then the second is friends don't eat friends.
Yes. And in this case, I feel like it's more family doesn't eat family.
That's true. Ooh, that makes it worse.
Or kin doesn't eat kin. That's what they say. I think did they say
in the
kin
manga? In the manga, Ling says like he just killed his own kin.
Yeah. Anyway, and then who pushed the story forward?
Lanfan for being a total girl boss and owning gluttony, and also Fu for bringing in the explosives.
Yes. All right, that's all we've got for this episode.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
And see you next week.
Yep, bye.
Bye.